All right, peace, peace, peace. Hopefully y'all can hear me. All right. I think we got those issues worked out now. So hopefully we got it down pat. All right. Um let's get busy with this part two right quick. And of course, we was talking about the last session about religion. Of course, the word religion comes from the word religo, which means to hold back or bind back. What are you holding back? All right. Or in particular, what are you tying back? Well, that will actually be your soul to God, is reason for the alignment or realignment, or hence the word religion aspect. However, of course, the word religion has become degenerated and has steeped into the notions of propaganda, business, and etc. You know, we don't look at religion as being spirituality when the word spirit, as we said the last session, if you take the word spirit and you tie it back to the word, let's go to Webster Dictionary. Embedded inside the definition of spirit is the word breath. Inside of the definition of breath is the word spirit. So breath and spirit are synonymous. That has to be understood, number one. All right. So what we want to talk about is how can we become spiritually realigned? And so we find that Dr. Albert Churchward in his book, his phenomenal book, The Origin and Evolution of Religion, he held that the African pygmies and the Nubians, who are the Ethiopians and the Cushites, all right, were the real originators of religion. The late Count Schiavone, in his book, The Ruins of Empires, he writes that all religions originated in Africa. The Ethiopians conceived themselves, said Diodorus, a Greek historian, to be of greater iniquity than of any other nation. They supposed themselves to be the inventors of divine worship, of festivals, of solemn assembly, of sacrifices, and every other religious practices. All right, every religious practices. The late Dr. Bress, the famed Egyptologist, maintained that the Ethiopians were the first to give religious thought and aspiration to the world. All right, so these are several European authors, Albions, who all state that the evolution of religion came from out of the heart of Africa, or in particular from African people. All right, we don't have a problem with that. We understand that the term African is from the ancient Egyptian word afu, which means body, temple, flesh, or house. Ra, photonic energy, light, sun. Ka, breath, spirit. So your temple, your body, your flesh, your house is your physical body, in which that houses your light, which is your soul, and your spirit, i.e., your breath. So your spiritual soul is encased or is inside of this temple. Hence the reason why when the Bible speaks that the body is the temple of God, that is actually a reference to the term African. All right, in that regard. So when you look at the word Elo, Ilah, Ilah, or Allah, you have that the letters R and L are interchangeable. In the Metu Neter, that becomes, L becomes Ray or Ra. Thus, when you look at, Elo, Eli, Ilah, or Allah, even the plural forms of it, all right, Elohim, Elohuma, Hallelujah, which is all using the Judaic system, belief, the Quranic belief, as well as also the Christian belief. And they all derive from Ur-Ra, which means great light. If you get Gerald Massey's lectures, which was by Gerald Massey, one of the titles of Ra is Ra-Ur, which means Ra, the Great One, which is a reference to your soul, your higher self. And the title Ur is Ul, which becomes in Hebrew El, and in Arabic Al. So Ra-Ur or Ur-Ra becomes Ur-La. All right. And so Allah is the origin, or becomes that within Arabic. So it's Allah. All right. So all of this goes back actually to Amin Ra, or Amin Rayet. All right. And Rayet or Rat Urt or Urdarat becomes Alat or Allat, which is the feminine aspect of Allah, who is Allah, is supposed to be one of the three daughters of Allah. All right, so this is no coincidence that some Muslims spell and pronounce Allah as Allah, Allah, Allah. All right, so I'm showing you how within the monotheistic belief systems, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, they have the name of God, and it's actually all the same name, but it all stems from Ra, as Ra is the oldest deity in the pantheon of gods or netures within the ancient Kemetic philosophy. All right, so when we look at that, this gives us some type of knowledge on what's really going on. And so when we look at El in the Bible, and then you also look in Yahweh, you find that within Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, these are the two different deities which they have fused together, El Yahweh, all right, and in which that Yahweh is Yahuwah or Yahweh. Hawa is the name for Eve, which in Genesis means the mother of all living things. All living things, not the mother of all human beings, but the mother of all living things. It's talking about prana, that life force, that universal life force. Within the Gnostic text, that's the mother Sophia. Within the Dogon traditions, that is Amma. All right, which Amma is Amin, or Amin Rayet. All right, or Minta. All right, but that is the aspect of Eve. And Eve was called Hawa. That is her Hebrew name, is Hawa. So one of God's name is Yahweh. Yah, when you pronounce that within Hebrew or Arabic, is an invocation of that life principle. So Yahweh is the life principle. All right, is that life principle. Now, one of the major titles of Tahuti, which is the God of wisdom, is Ah. That's I-A-H. Yah, Ah, becomes Yah or Jah, which is Jehovah. All right, etc., meaning the crescent moon. And this is where they get the fact, or where they get to say that Allah is the moon aspect. Allah, all right, but they really talk about Tahuti. All right, which Tahuti, one of the Tahuti name is Yah, Ayah, I-A-H, I-A-H, Yah. All right, so Yah becomes Yah, becomes Jah, Jehovah, you know, so he's called Yahuhi, Yahui, Yahui, which the letters Huhi turns backwards is Ahu, which becomes Yahivahi. All right, becomes Yahivahi. Now, what is Yahivahi? Yahivahi, which is the Tetragrammaton, which is short for Yahweh, Yahuwah. That is one of the names of Tahuti. And in this form, he symbolizes the crescent moon. Not that the crescent moon, that's exactly what that is. They're not saying that. They're saying that it represents a moon or lunar aspect. Now, Ra symbolizes the great mysteries, as we just broke down the higher self, which is the greater mysteries, because Ra or Ra means Ra, the great one. Right? So that's your higher self. That's your soul embedded inside of your pineal gland. And upon reawakening, becomes Ra, that old soul, the olden one, the ancient one, right? Which is known as Melchizedek. Melchizedek was called the ancient one within the Bible text. That's Ra. And because Melchizedek is Heru, Marka Heru, Mark Heru, or Marku Heru is Michael. Michael is the word Marku Heru. All right, so Michael is where the Hebrew origin of that name comes from, which becomes Malachi. All right, but that is a form of Heru, and Heru is a form of Ra in his new awakened state. All right, so remember, it was Tahuti in the ancient mythology of the Kemites or Temerians, Egyptians, that who brought Heru eye back, because his eye was snatched by Set. Who brought that eye back? That was Tahuti. Just like Tahuti brought back the phallus symbol, which is symbolic to the pineal gland, because the head of the pineal gland looks identical to the head of the phallus of the penis. That's why it's called the pineal gland, which is the head of the penis, and then you have the pineal gland. All right. So in this form, you have Tahuti, which symbolizes that crescent moon. All right. And we know that the moon actually have a light of its own. All right. Even though science told us that there was a light in which that vibes off of the light from the sun reflects off onto the moon, or the light from the moon is reflection from the sun, however they say it. That's not true. All right. There's a lot of information coming out concerning that. I mean, hell, the only thing we gotta do just look at it simple as at nighttime, the moon has a cool energy, and during the daytime, the sun has a warm or hot, a heat energy. All right. So that symbolizes the greater mysteries was the sun, and the lesser mysteries were the moon. That's what that's symbolic to. Or as we would say, the higher Egypt, or which is called Upper Egypt, or Lower Egypt, or what would be called within your physical body. All right. Your physical body is Egypt. All right. For the soul. So you have the Upper Egypt, or what is called your higher self. And then you have Lower Egypt, which would be your lower self. All right. Symbolically. Now, if you get to Holy Quran Circle 7 or the 101s, 102s of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, or the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Divine National Movement, you find that that the higher self is the mother of virtues, mercy, love, and right. All right. Now, the lower self is everything that harms. All right. Slander. All right. And everything that harms. In other words, lust, greed, jealousy, and envy. Everything that harms. All right. So you don't want to exhibit those characteristics. That's the code, or the nature. That's why they say, nigga, you cold-blooded. That's what they used to say back in the days. You know what I'm saying? You a snake. In other words, a reptile, because what happens when it get cold? A reptile or a snake got to curl up. They don't like, you know what I'm saying, the cold like that. They don't move. All right. So that's why you don't have to worry about snakes during the winter time. But during the sun time, when the sun is high and the sun is, at its highest warmth period during the summertime, snakes are out. All right. So that's what this is all symbolic to. And also the snake symbolizes, just like it does on the caduceus, that intertwining of those two serpents, the Ida and the Pingala, which is symbolic to the energy that comes up through those nerves, which is called prana or chi or ki energy, is called also Shakti within Kundalini Shakti within the Hindu or Vedic text. When that energy comes up the spine, it activates through the nostrils. The left is the Ida, the right is the Pingala nostril, which the left is the sun nostril, the right is the the left is the moon nostril, and the right is the sun nostril. So the left is Ida and the right is Pingala. So as these two nerves come up, intertwine in the back, comes up to the back of the head, right at the medulla oblongata, and comes out right here at the nose. When you breathe simultaneously through both nostrils, you activate the Sushumna, which is the middle pillar. This is all within Freemasonry. You have Jacine and Boaz, symbolic to that left and right, those left and right nerves in the spinal column. All right, you have inside of the nerves, inside of the vertebrates, which is 33 vertebrates. You have 31 nerves. So 31 nerves inside plus the 2 nerves outside is 33 nerves. So 33 plus the 33 vertebrates is 66. This is how many books in the Bible that you have. All right, based on the Protestant science of it. All right, that's how they break that down. Now, we know that Tahuti symbol, or one of his images, is an ibis bird, which is a crane-headed bird. And this ibis bird was called Habu, a Habui, which within the Metru Neter, Habu is pronounced Habwa, Habwa, Habwa. That's how it's pronounced. So Habui actually is Habwa, and Habwa was corrupted into Hawe or Hawa, which happens to be Eve's name in Hebrew, and which is the mother of all living things, and Allah's or Yahweh's, or should say El Shaddai name, which is Yahweh. All right, within Hebrew. So really what we come to find out that it actually symbolizes the Kundalini energy. All right, how we know this? Because Jesus said he would have to be like the serpent raised in the wilderness. Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up. Well, if you go back and read in the Old Testament about the serpent being lifted up, you find that Moses had to make a bronze serpent so that the Israelites would not get bitten and die by this serpent. So he had to make a bronze serpent, and that whomever shall look upon this bronze serpent shall not die, but shall live. So the serpent, when it's descended, symbolizes death, destruction. But when the serpent is ascended, symbolizes life, immortality. All right, this is why you see the caduceus of the 2 serpents going up in order to activate that middle pillar. All right, that's the same story that you read in the New Testament of Jesus being put in between the 2 thieves. The 2 thieves are the 2 malefactors. The one on the left said, if you be the Christ, won't you get yourself down from here? The one on the right said, remember me this day in paradise. Then Jesus said, I will remember you this day in paradise. And he gave up the ghost. Up the ghost. The ghost that must go up is your Kundalini. That is the Holy Ghost. That's why, which is the feminine aspect, the feminine energy, which is Hawa, Eve, which is Kundalini, which is also offset within the Kemetic or Metru Neter philosophy or belief system. All right. So this name Yahuwah actually sounds also like the beat of the heart. If you take your fingers and put in your ears and listen to your heartbeat, Yahuwah, 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 Yahuwah. That sounds like the heartbeat. When the sodium and the potassium is in balance to promote those two beats. Do 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 do. Yahuwah, Yahuwah, Yahuwah. Do 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 do. All right. So that's actually the sound of the beat by the heart. Those 4 chambers. Those 4 chambers correlate to those 4 tetragrammatons, Yahi Vahi. All right. Yod, which looks like a flame, He looks like the shoulders and the arms. Va or Ve looks like the torso. And then he again looks like the pelvis and the legs. So when you take Yahi Vahi and place Yahi Vahi over top of each other, it looks like the shape of the body of man. Because they tell you where Yahweh is located at. And what Yahweh is your genetic structure. And you have the 4 building blocks in which that makes up your genetic structure. Those 4 building blocks, metaphorically, are known as the 4 amino acids. All right, those called all the 4 amino acids. All right, you have adenine, guanine, guanine, adenosine, and thiamine. These are the 4 amino acids. They are known within chemistry and biology as CGTC. CGTA. All right, those 4 codes, which you call your building blocks for your physical body, that is Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton, the 4 amino acids. Okay, so when you talk about the Holy Bible, the word holy is derived from the Greek word helios. All right, where you get the word heroes from, or heru, or hero. All right, and so the Latin word is halo. All right, both means what? Sun. So the Greek halo or helios, the Greek helios and the Latin halo both mean sun, which is the illuminating light. All right, and remember the R and the L's are interchangeable. So both words are derived from the Metru Neter, which is the ancient Temerian word Heru or Haru, another form of Ra. His father was Asa, which is Ra also. All right, so it's talking about Ra being born again, just like Jesus told man to be born again, told Nicodemus that he must be born again. You mean to go back into my mother's womb? No, fool. But anyway, the word Bible is derived from the Latin word biblios, which is biplo, or biplis, which is the word papyrus. All right, and the early Greek, all right, in the early Greek form, all right, in that early Greek, all right, is what we want to talk about here. That word papyrus is stems because that's the only word that you ever hear, but that word stems actually from the Metru Neter word papera, which is the English translation for paper. So the only thing they did was take the A off of paper, which was papera, and say paper. But that is the word paper is an ancient Egyptian word. Hence, the Holy Bible is a plagiarized version of Ra Papyra, or Ra Papera, which is the book of knowing the evolution of Ra and the overthrowing of Apep. All right. If you read the Gods of Egypt or Gods of the Egyptians, written by E.A. Wallace Budge, he tells you that volume 1, page 308 through 21. All right. And what is the book of knowing the evolution of Ra and the overthrowing of Apep? What is that? Well, we come to find out that that is the coming forth by day and night, or the book of the book of the dead, misnomed by E.A. Wallace Budge. All right. So when you talk about Holy Bible, you talking about Ra Papera. So they really didn't lie to you. The Bible is just simply a summary of the ancient mysteries of Ra. And Ra being what? The greater mysteries. So they take you from the lower mysteries into the greater mysteries through that book, because it's Ra Papera, the book of knowing the evolution of Ra and the overthrowing of Apep. What is Apep? Apep is the lowest self. Ra is the highest self. And what is the evolution? The evolution is going through those concessions known as your chakra system, or within the ancient Kemetic text, we call Shenkaras, or the Aritus, the 7 lions, known as the 7 African powers, known within the Yoruba as the Orisha, Isho Elegba, Oya, Imiya, Ogun, Oshun. Shango, Obatala, Olodumare. All right. You have the Voodoo or the Vodan, the Voodoo, seven Loha, right? You have the Book of Revelations, the seven seals, the seven churches, the seven candlesticks, the seven thunders. You have all of these told to us over and over again throughout the various cultures. Within the Holy Quran, Circle 7, or the 101s, 102s, the 102s, 101s of Moorish, for Moorish, the question is for Moorish children, the question is for Moorish Americans. It speaks about the seven eyes of Allah. Within Hebrew, it's the seven Elohim, known as the Elohuma. Okay, so we want to make this clear for people can stop having all this confusion, because I be seeing all these whack out comments on Facebook. No substance, but people buying into it, making, oh yeah, that's right, man. No, it's not right. The seven African powers of Africa is spoken of as the same within the Hindu text, because the Hindus were Kushites. You think they have a damn mountain chain there in India called Indo-Kush? If they were not Kushites, they came straight from out of Ethiopia. And I just showed you how the information of religion came from out of Ethiopia, as the Ethiopians are the oldest. And who do, if you go to chapter 47 in the Holy Quran, Circle 7, it speaks of that old man Kush. We are the people of old man Kush. Okay? Kush is talking about the Kushites, Ethiopians, Sudanese, Nubians, all the same people. Right? So the Holy Quran, the word holy, once again, means sun, photonic energy, light. And it's derived from the Greek word helios, meaning, once again, sun. From Heru, meaning sun, light, day, or time. And Quran in Arabic means to recite or recycle or a cycle. Thus, Holy Quran means sun cycle or sun chronological method or chronological cycle. Furthermore, Heru is also known as Ku. And Ku is the ancient Metronet name for illumination, intelligence, and wisdom. So you have Ku Ra. Ku Ra means wisdom of Ra. All right. So that is one of the Arabic names. Ku. Ku Ra. Ku Ra means the wisdom of Ra. Muslims refer to the Quran as the book of wisdom. The wisdom of Ra are collections, what? From the Ra, once again, from the Ra paper Ra, or the book of knowing, the evolution of Ra and the overthrowing of Apep. So that's why you can't throw the Bible and the Quran out, or just like you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because you'll be throwing away your missing pieces, or some pieces in which that would be needed. So you don't do that as a scholar, or as a theologian, or as an occultist, or even the Satanists use the scriptures. Even the atheists use the scriptures because they have to try to convey their point that there's something wrong with it. And not saying that there hasn't been misinformation or disinformation, mistranslations, misinterpretations. There have been, no doubt about it. But understand that if you did comparative religious studies and you read this information in the Sumerian text, all right, which is the Enuma Elish, or the Epic of Gilgamesh, or the Tales of Etana, or the Tales of Ishtar, and you read in these same similar stories, and then you open up your Bible and read these similar stories, then that should tell you that, oh, this is where this came from. Or and remember, who was they that went into, the Bible tells you that Nimrod, the grandson of Ham, the son of Cush, right? Old man Cush, went where? He went into Mesopotamia, which is Iraq and Iran. He ran. All right, he went right there. All right. So this information in which that the so-called Jews gathered, that was information that was already taken in by the African people into Samaria. In fact, if you go to the British Museum, you find a still with the first Egyptians, with the first Sumerians being the ancient Egyptians. On this still, they have pictures of Ampu, Ra, Heru, Tahuti, or Set, Nebhet. There's a still that's there in Mesopotamia showing the ancient Egyptians on their walls. How can you deny that? And then you come here to America and you find 18 temples in the Grand Canyon, ancient Egyptians from the 18th dynasty, from the Amana dynasty, which is from Akhenaten, Uncle-Anten. And you don't think there's an ancient mystery school system in which that was all over the world. But yet we keep finding these same hieroglyphics, Metronetia, all over the world. There's hieroglyphics, even, or Metronetia, even found in Australia. All over the world. There was an ancient mystery school system. And if you ever read the book, Stolen Legacy by George G. James, he tells you the same thing I'm telling you, where it's located at throughout the world. He gives the names of the schools and everything. All right, I won't get into that right now. You know, we might even have a part 3 for religion because it's so in depth. All right, but anyway, so the Holy Quran means sun cycle or chronicle of the sun, the chronicles of the sun, or chronology. All right, the sun or solar chronology. That's what it means. So Muslims refer to the Quran as the book of wisdom, which is Qur'an, and the word Qur'an also where the word Quran comes from. All right, you get it? So it is known fact that 73% of the Holy Quran is derived directly from the Holy Bible, Old and New Testament. And the other 27 is derived from the Zoroastrian text or Zoroastrus or Zoroastra. What from his text is called the Zen Avesta, right? Also, the lost books of the Bible and the forgotten books of Eden and the Apocrypha, right? This is where the remaining 27% of the Quran or Quran comes from. So 73% is straight from the Bible. So if you take the Quran and the Bible and put them side by side, 73% of it comes directly from the Quran. 73% comes directly from the Bible. The other 27%, like I said, is from the Zen Avesta, the lost books of the Bible, forgotten books of Eden, and the Apocrypha. All right. So once again, this is reason for research. You know, I be hearing all these whack tales, but if you go to the Holy Quran, it tells you itself, the 25th surah, the 5th ayat, and it say the tales of the ancients, which has caused to be written. And they are dictated before him morning and evening. The tales of the ancients. What's the tales of the ancients? Well, let's see. Go to the Holy Quran, the poets, 26 surah, 196 ayat. And it says, without a doubt, it is announced in the mystic books of former peoples. The mystic books of the former peoples? What do mystic mean? Go to Webster Random House Dictionary and look up the word mystic. It says mysteries transcending ordinary human knowledge. So when people say, oh no, the Quran or the Bible is exactly as it states that it is no metaphors, there's no parables. Well, come on, you know, basically everything Jesus spoke about was in parables. Christians tell you that. But you go further, it says involved or characterized by esoteric, otherworldly or symbolic practices or content as certain religious ceremonies and art, spiritual significance, ethereal. So it says involved or characterized by esoteric, y'all. That's what mystic means. So it says, so these are esoteric books of the former people. I get to that in a second. Esoteric books of the former people. This is in the Quran. Muslims won't tell you this, But yet the Quran tells you that portions of it is allegorical. But then Orthodox Muslims, such as the Sufis, such as the Sunnis and the Shiites or Wahhabis, call the Sufis crazy, because they want to understand the portions that are allegorical and how it relates back to them and their body and their spiritual development. No, they're not crazy. You crazy for thinking that Allah is outside of man, far, far away, some damn way. Like he's on another damn planet or something. Right? Holy Quran, 43rd Surah and the 4th ayah. The mother of the books, Al-Huma, Al-Kitab, the foundation of revelation, the preserved tablets, is the core or essence of revelations. The mother of the book is in Allah's own presence. All right. Well, if that's the case, then that would be symbolic to the ethers, known as the astral plane. All right. So basically, the following is the table of content of the true original source of the Quran. Even the Holy Bible, which is the Sun Papers, written on rights of books that no longer is part of the biblical collection. All right, which we spoke about. I have on my website. I have basically all the books mentioned on the website. If y'all just go to dralimel-bey.com and go to the Inner Metaphysical Confusion, you'll see the information right there. But they was forbidden or missing books, allegedly. Well, the Holy Quran tells you rights of the 4 major books that it gets this information from: the Torah, the Zabur, which is Psalms, the Injil, and the Quran. All right. So what's the Torah? That's the Tanakh, or the Pentateuch. All right, was sent to Moses. The Zabur, which is Psalms, was sent to Dawood, which is David. The Injil, Revelations, which is the New Testament of Gospel, was sent to Isa, which is Jesus, and the Quran was sent to Muhammad. All right, but let's go on. In the Holy Quran, the 2nd Surah, the 142nd ayat, the fools among the people will say, what has turned them from the Qibla or Qibla? Well, that's the Kabbalah, to which that they all use. Well, that's the Kabbalah. So now you even have to add in the signs of the Kabbalah. So when people say, oh no, we don't mess with the Holy Kabbalah, you have some Jews that say that, or you have some Moors that say that. Once again, that's crazy. So, we talked about also the last session was about the origin of the Old Testament. And we broke down, that Aristides, how he wrote Demetrius and recommended to Ptolemy Soter to gather a collection of books on the kingship and ruling. All right, like Plato, this is why you have the Book of Kings in the Bible. All right, because that was coming from those books, from the kingships and the rulerships, and that's what So like Plato, philosopher kings, and furthermore, he gathered the books of all the world people that he might better understand the subjects and trade partners. So Ptolemy gave Demetrius the job of gathering the extant books and scrolls and supervised the translation of the books of all nations into Greek. All right. So Ptolemy Soter carried off about 100,000 Jews. They were deported to Egypt or fled there, still reeling from the influence of the Babylonian captivity. And so the Jews came to be a large minority in population in Alexandria, living beside the Egyptian Greeks in their own quarters. Now, they ain't really Greek. These are Persians, all right, with Greek ties, because Philip of Macedonia, he was a Persian. Alexander the so-called Great was a Persian, but they somehow ends up being called Greeks. Anyway, that's another story. At Demetrius' suggestion, Ptolemy hires and houses 72 bishops, or rabbis, as they were called during this time, for the project. All right, you get this from an article on the Library of Alexandria. So what happened is that the workshop in which that the religions was modeled was in Alexandria, Egypt. which was the focal center for culture, knowledge, religious speculation, and propagandizing. Right? So it becomes the emporium for religious dogmas throughout the East and a place to resort for the disciples of nearly every system of religious faith that existed or then existed. So the Jews has always copied features that they liked from the religions of their neighbors and conquerors and drafted the doctrine into Judaism. So as Old Testament history shows, Ptolemy, which is Philip, basically his name is Ptolemy Philadelphus. He set up the museum library, later to be called the Serapim, where they got the Serapis character from, which is the mixture of saw, which is off saw, and apis, which is the bull aspect of off saw, which is talking about during the time of the. So see, the Greeks didn't understand fully the symbol that they brought into, that they was started to acknowledge, or the Serapis, which becomes the Serapis character later on during the Nicene Council in 325 AD, in which that they made this living creature. They made this creature come to life, all right, in the sense of through specifying the information. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So, we know that the theological schools arose, and through a simultaneous mix, that they started mixing the paganism, as they would say, the Jewish and the Eastern thought. All of this developed, the ideas were adapted, and not only from other theologies common in Alexandria, but also from Zoroastrianism, as I spoke about a little bit earlier. All right, which is of Iran, and even though the founder of the Neo-Platonism, Buddhism, Hinduism from India, all of that was mixed in there. Men of every philosophy and every faith met, exchanging ideas and borrowed religious doctrines, revising their own religion in the light of others' wisdom. So this is how they came up with the Bible, all right, which 73% of that is the Quran, all right? And if you do some research, it is said that the Vatican are the ones who put forth the information. It was the Vatican in particular, those who was around the said Prophet Muhammad, who taught him, who was Catholics, as a matter of fact, who taught him the science of, it wasn't a angelic being, as they would want to say. Some say it was Balal, but also his uncle and his wife, Khadijah, all right, who was Catholics. They taught him the science from those particular books, which of course the books are the New and Old Testament, in which that 73% was drafted from, in which that made the Quran. He read those other books in which that you can read parts of the Quran and you will find the exact parts being told in the lost books of the Bible, forgotten books of Eden, and etc. So according to Carl Burgess, how the Old Testament came to be, he states, although the whole of the Old Testament had been written by 150 BC, the writings were not declared authorized until 90 AD. So see, Alexander, the library, the information from the Alexandria Library, which was written 150 BC, all right, after the Ptolemies came in there in 332 BC, which was Ptolemy first the Sultan, as well as also his brother, Alexander the Fake. They didn't authorize, there was no authorization like this was going to be the book of all books. This was just simply collection, as they was doing from that time, from 332 BC to 150 BC. And further on, even up until 90 AD. But by the time of the 90 AD, you had a council of rabbis at Jamnia. At Jamia, this is where they said, okay, this is where we're going to put together the Old Testament. It was this group that decided which of the later writings should be included as the Old Testament. It was at this council of Jamia, 90 AD, that the compilation of the new official said Jewish canon, or what we call the revising of the original septuagint of the Old Testament began. Now, if you go get the book, Jesus Chronicles Old Truth Uncovered by Judy James Carter, she states that it was not until 397 AD that the Bible assumed its present form. All right. The first Synod of Laodicea held around 363 AD. An assembly of bishops decided which could be read out loud. They were the book of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, Esther, first and second book of Kings, third and fourth books of Kings, the first and second books of Esra, the book of the 150 Psalms, the Proverbs of Solomon and Ecclesiastics, the book of Solomon, Songs of Solomon, Job, the 12 prophets, which is Isaiah, Jeremiah, Baruch, the Lamentations and the letters, the Ezekiel and Daniel. These were the books that was being able to be read out loud. And we went over the last how these particular books, and I told you how they came into being. One of the first to tell you where these books actually came from, where it was summarized from. So this is why you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because Genesis is derived from the Purim Hirusut, or what is called the open of the mouth ceremony, day and night, which is light and shadow, solar and lunar, all right, which is the book of knowing, the evolution of Ra and the overthrown of Apep, which is the book of coming forth by day and night, or what is known as, misnomer by E.A. Wallace Budge as the book of the day. And these are the books in which that it comes from. I went through each one, all right, on where each book comes from on the last session. I won't go into it here. I show you, all right, where each book in the Bible comes from. You need to go and listen to the last session that we did, all right, the last class. Right now, for the New Testament, that was for the Old Testament particularly, where they drafted that information from. For the New Testament, I tell you exactly who wrote that too. So the whole Bible, I tell you, the years, the books, nobody has did a research this thorough on this subject before. All right. So you have the origin of the New Testament. You have read a short synopsis of the Pisos history by Victor Manuels. All right. It is stated that his family descended from Philip II of Macedon. All right. King Philip was the father of two sons, Alexander the Great and Ligo, which the rabbit, which is Ptolemy or Ptolemy. The Piscean line descends from Lago down through the many Ptolemies, 12 Ptolemies to be exact, to include Cleopatra and Orius Pisos or Pisos. In their day, they was all well known, and many great writers mentioned them. They were members of a closed society of Zoroastrianism. So this is how we know that they added in Zoroastrianism. Zoroaster, that was part of their history because they was Persians. The Persians come from out of Iraq and Iran. They come from out of Iran, y'all. And remember, this is who they were. So the Zoroastrianism and the priests of the temple of Zola, the homeland of Pontus on the southern coast of the Black Sea, you have that Zoroastrianism originally was astrotheology, spiritual system degraded into a religion founded around 700 to 500 BC. All right, allegedly by a Persian prophet named Zoroaster or Zoroaster. And Zoroaster becomes known as the study of the stars. That's what that name means, study of the stars. So the basic belief of Zoroastrianism is that there was a constant battle between spirit of good and spirit of bad or evil, and that this earth is the battleground. And you are the pawns in that fight. Okay? And shit, it don't seem like it's too far off to me. All right, you have the same battle Even in the New Testament, Jesus against Lucifer. Satan comes and tests Jesus for 40 days and 40 nights on the mount. If you be the guy, won't you just go in and turn them stones into bread, man, and go and get you something to eat? Okay, that's what was going on. All right, that's what was going on. All right, so that is the thing in which that we got to talk about. At the so-called Roman Pisos or Pisos family, or Reyes Pisos in particular, authorized the New Testament and the genealogy from Herod. Now, Herod existed, in which that they add that biblical character in there in order to say that Herod was the one who sought after Jesus and all those who was under 2 years old to slay them and kill them because he feared the rise of the Black Messiah. Well, that's no different than what we find in modern day times when you go back to the 1960s and read J. Edgar Hoover, or I should say Gay Edgar Hoover, and him being a mulatto himself. And the reason why he was a homosexual because he feared that by him having sex with someone would produce a Black child, because he knew he had Blackness still in his genes or genealogy, in which that you can look up the Hoovers and you can find out that they come right out. They were so-called Black folks that come out of Mississippi. And he was one of them. He was part of that Hoover clan, as they say. Okay, he's part of the Hoover clan. Now, he wrote a memo saying that he feared the rise of a Black Messiah. And he mentioned those who had the potential to be the Black Messiah. He mentioned Malcolm X. He mentioned Martin Luther the King. He mentioned Elijah Muhammad, but said Elijah Muhammad was too old. He mentioned Kwame Ture, who was known as Stokely Carmichael at that time, who had the charisma in order to do it. So when Stokely Carmichael found out about that memo, he left and got his ass out of Dodge and went to Africa. All right. Upon his return here, you find out that he ends up getting shot out with cancer, as he would tell you in the 1998 issue. This was right around the time when Dr. John Henry Clark passed for him in 1998 too, that he believed that the FBI shot him up with cancer. All right. The fear of the rise of a Black Messiah. All right. So here we go again. So here, we find the same thing going on. So Arias Pisos, he plays the part. All right. He plays that part in particular of Jesus. All right. We find out that Arias Pisos was also not just a Roman on his father's side, but a descendant of King Herod on his mother's side. Therefore, he knew well about the Jewish religion. He was also a close relative to the Flavians. Even though secretly he could inherit and use the Flavian name by his mother's descent from them, he gave a story about receiving it from the Emperor Vespasian in his other identity as Flavius Josephus or Joseph Flavian. So he was saying that, so really he was Joseph Flavian. So if you compare Joseph Flavian writings to Arias Pisos, which is the biblical writings, you find out that they nearly one and the same. Okay. Dropping the information out there for you now. Just dropping it out there. All right. So you find out that he mostly wrote Arias Pisos along with Finley the younger, Justice, Julius Copernicus, and his various sons, that he was able to write the 26 books of the New Testament. All right, him and his family. And of course, you find more within 73 books within the Catholic Church rendition, as they add in the book of Maccabees, the book of Jubilee, the book of Asher, so forth and so on. All right. And there's even more within the information come from out of Ethiopia, amongst the Coptics, I think they have over 90 books. All right. And we know that there was 14 books taken out purposely, all right, or left out, which becomes known as the Apocrypha, as actually aspects also of the lost books of the Bible, forgotten books of Eden. All right. So if you get this book called the Gnostic Text, you'll find a lot of these books in there, as well as also a lot of the Gnostic teachings that never made it into the Bible. Okay. So Pastor Ray Higgins says this, and I have to use his information on this because he dropped it. He broke it down. All right. But before I even get to him, let me say what a theological scholar said, James Legge, from Oxford University. All right. As well as Professor Jennings and Clemens Allen, Honorable Clemens Allen, all agreed that hundreds, if not thousands, of ancient manuscripts, tablets, and carvings indubitably prove that all races of all people that have ever inhabited the earth have strived at best they could to leave records of the chemistry and physiology of their own bodies. In other words, science, Egyptology, Indo-Iranian, Chinese, Japanese, Persians, or Sanskrit, all forever strove to solve the riddle of the human body. To drive the point home, these wonderful holy books are fables. All right, check this out now. Are fables, parables, allegories dealing with the chemical, physiological, anatomical, and astrological operations of the human body. Now you can get this from a book called God Man, The Word Made Flesh by George Perry and Inez Carey. Right. So the problem is that the uninitiated and unlearned person may read a passage and give it their own interpretation, but their interpretation may not be the correct or as in-depth as needed. Therefore, denominations, sects, cults, schisms, and isms may be formed around their interpretation. All right, that's what is happening. That's how you get the Jehovah's Witness, Baptist, the Pentecostal Holiness, the Methodist, so forth and so on. So all spiritual belief systems, religions are based on the life, deeds, and events. This is what Pastor Ray Higgins says. Now, all spiritual belief systems, religions are based on the life, deeds, and events of eponymous people that have been culturally literalized and incorporated into the cognitive reality of the people within that culture. And eponymy is a fictitious character who a person or a group of people name or characterize themselves after for the sake of giving validity and can identify to their own existence. For example, the eponymous names such as Adam, Noah, Ham, Shem, Japheth, Abraham, Hebraic, Joseph, which is Israel, Moses, Mosaic, Jesus, Christian, Muhammad, Mohammedism, all right, Osiris, Horus, Krishna, Hindu, Buddha, Buddhist, Prometheus, Adonis, Quetzalcoatl, Mithra, Zoroastrianism, and others are used by some to claim their place as God's chosen people to give themselves validity. And I believe that. That's what's been going on. And how do we know that there's allegory? Well, the Bible itself says it. Holy Bible, New Testament, Galatians 4:21-26. Tell me, ye that ye desire under the law, do ye not hear the law? For it is written that Abraham had two sons, one by a bondmaid, the other by a free woman. But he who was by the bondwoman was born after the flesh. But the one of the free woman was born by promise, which things are an allegory. For these are the two covenants, and one from Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Hagar. Now Hagar is supposed to be the mother of Ishmael, which is the wife of Abraham, who Sarah sent away. But check this out. Now it says, for Hagar is Mount Sinai. Huh? Now you wouldn't have known that because you would have thought Hagar was an actual person. But the Bible says that Hagar is actually Mount Sinai here in Arabia. So when Muslims talk about they were from Hagar, what the hell are they talking about? Have they flipped their wig? Because Hagar was not an actual person. It was symbolic to Mount Sinai in Arabia. And answereth to Jerusalem, which now is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. So Mount Sinai symbolized Arabia, which is a form of Hagar. It is Hagar, right? Which is the bondwoman. While Jerusalem is symbolized by the free woman, which is Sarah, who's the mother of us all. Well, you would not get this unless you read the 101s and 102s of the Moorish Holy Quran Circle 7, where it says that the higher self is the mother of virtues. So Jerusalem symbolizes the higher self, the mother of virtues. As it says, Jerusalem is the mother of us all. So allegory are intentionally chosen as a means for communicating knowledge. Allegories dramatize cosmic law, principles, processes, relationships, functions, and expresses them in a way easy to understand. Once the elements of the allegories have been revealed, they become marvels of simultaneous scientific and philosophical completeness and conciseness. The more they are studied, the richer they become. The inner dimensions of the teachings embedded inside each story makes them capable of revealing several layers of knowledge according to the stages of development of the listener or the reader. This is what is going on. So this is why you have different states of consciousness, because one person might be at interpersonal conscious state where they think everything is literal and historical. Or you might have somebody at infinite conscious state in which that know that this is spiritual information or food in which that we can eat simply by reading it, and which has a deep embedded spiritual knowledge base for us. The secrets are revealed as one evolves higher. The higher we get, the more we see. It's always there. So this is why you just don't read one book one time. If you're going to get the real substance, you got to read it several times, many times, to see what is being really said. They believe in them in the sense that they do believe in the truth beneath the story. The Egyptians, all right, let me go back. The Egyptians, ancient and present day Baladi, do and do not believe their allegories as historical facts. They believe in them in a sense that they believe in the truth beneath the stories. Exactly. The Christians, seemingly religion throws away and lost the very soul of the meaning when it mistranslates the ancient Egyptian allegorical language into allegorical history. Instead of viewing it as a spiritual allegory, the result was a pathetic blind faith in a kind of emotional and superstitious naturalism, and efficiently aborted the real power of the story, allegory to transform the life of every individual. All right, you can get this from www.egypt-tahudi.org. All right, /articles, /holy-family.html. So when we read Holy Quran, let's see. So we just read the Bible and it says that it was portions of the allegory. But here in the Holy Quran, Surah 3, Ayat 6, it says, it is who has revealed the book to thee. Some of its verses are decisive, but they are the basis of the book. Others are allegorical. Then those in whose heart is perversity follow the part of it which is allegorical. seeking to mislead and seeking to give it its their own interpretation, as I just made mention of. And none knows its interpretations except Allah and those firmly rooted in knowledge. Then we say, we believe in it. It is all from our Lord, and none do mind except men of understanding. So according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, allegory means the expression by means of symbolic fictitious characters. Fictional characters or figures, symbolic fictional figures? Allegory? So I just read to you that Abraham, Hagar, Sarah was an allegory. Well, hold up. If I'm not mistaken, Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar are the mothers and fathers of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. So if there was an allegory, what do that mean for the doctrine in the way in which that they have presented it to us as being historical and literal? Well, therefore, if Abraham, the supposed father of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, did not actually exist in human form, neither did his sons Isaac, the supposed Hebrew, Israelite, Jewish, Christian father, and Ishmael, the supposed Arab father, for they were symbolic, fictional characters. Then the so-called monotheistic religions of Judaism, the Holy Quran, Christianity, the Holy Bible, the Islam, the Holy Quran, are merely stories and tales from older stories, as I already proved to you, and tales of human evolution and awakening. So that's why you can't throw it away, because read the stories and look for something deeper. Well, the Bible tells you about, killings and murders. Well, they trying to tell you not to do that, because even in the story where Moses killed the 2 Egyptians, his karma was that he never got to see or never got to step foot into the land of Canaan, which is the land of milk and honey. He had to go to a mountain and look down and see the children of Israel go into the land of milk and honey. But he himself could not go. Why? Because of the sins he did. Just like David. David put Bathsheba's husband on the front line and killed him so he can get with Bathsheba. And what happened? He was not able to build the temple of God. His son Solomon had to do it. You see? So this is they telling you allegories. All right. These are stories that you can, as a human being, you may have these desires, but the overall story is telling you, don't try that shit. This is the same thing when you read the stories about Aesop, in the stories of Aesop. In Aesop stories, as a child, you would always hear of a moral to the story. This is all the Bible is telling you, morals to a story for your evolution, for your spiritual development. But of course, believe that. But how do we know that these are principles based on astrotheology and human development spiritually and so forth and so on? Well, even for those who are 5%ers, Nation of Gods and Earth, or those of the Nation of Islam. So if you get the Supreme Wisdom lessons, the Lost Found Muslim lessons, 120 lessons is stated. Even in Lost Found Muslim lessons number 2, 1 through 40, which is the first term examination assignment of Mr. Elijah Muhammad, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you find question 1, who made the Holy Quran or the Bible? How long ago? Will you tell us, does Islam renew her history every 25,000 years? Well, that's how we know Islam is a sun chronicle or chronology. Remember, we told you that the word Holy Quran means sun chronology, a cycle of time of the sun passage. So here, answer. The Holy Quran or Bible is made by ordinary people, who is Allah, the supreme being or black man of Asia. The Quran will expire in year 25,000. The Nation of Islam is all wise and does everything right and exact. The planet Earth, which is the home of Islam, is approximately 25,000 miles in circumference. So the wise man of the East, black man, made history or Quran to equal his home circumference. A year to every 25,000 to every mile, excuse me, and thus every time his history lasts 25,000 years, he renews it for another 25,000 years. Well, if you look and understand what is called a precession of an equinox, that is equal to 25,000 years. Every 25,000 years, the sun goes through the 12 zodiac signs, or what is called 25,920 years. Over a 24-hour span, it so happens that you just breathe 25,920 times in a 24-hour span. So the following is the tablet of the content of the original source, as we stated before, all right, of the signs of the Quran. We told you this already. So I'm going to end part 2 right here, and we're going to pick this back up and go into part 3 because we got more info to go into. But before I go, let me leave this with y'all. And these just had to be verses that they never tell you about. All right. But yet it's in their book. And this is coming from 1 Corinthians 3:16. Do you not know that you are the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? If anyone defiles the temple of God, God will destroy him, for the temple of God is holy, which ye are. 1 Corinthians 6:19-20. Or do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have from God, and God is and you are not your own. You was bought at a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. 2 Corinthians 13:5. Or do you not know yourself that Jesus Christ is in you? All right. 2 Corinthians 6:16-18. For ye are the temple of the living God, and God has said, I will dwell in them and walk among them. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. I will be a father to you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. Therefore, God exists in you, but you also exist in God, just like the ocean is in the fish, while at the same time the fish is in the ocean. I'll leave y'all there with that to ponder on. All right. Peace, y'all. We love you. We're going to be back next Friday with part 3 of the science of religion, because we got to get it in. All right. We got to break this spell seriously. And that's one of the most powerful spells that's holding us back, is the one of religion. All right. So that's why we're going to do 3 parts on this. All right. We out, y'all. Peace.
Thanks, Dr. Goodbye.